Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Danish on the home side, half American on the away side. The Danish brewery I know very well, one of my favourite Danish breweries in fact, and they've featured on the channel quite a number of times. I always try and pick up at least one of their beers when I go over to Copenhagen. But the American brewery is one that has never featured on the channel before. So always nice to introduce new American breweries to you here. They come from a very well-known beer state. They carry a very good reputation from what I understand, and they also won a good number of awards in their first year of operations, which is pretty impressive. So this one should hopefully make for a really nice and interesting review. So like I said to you, for the home side we are going to go to Copenhagen. We're going to go up to Gørløse for this one and have a look at another beer from one of the Ølkollektivet breweries. So this one comes to you from Dry and Bitter Brewing Company. It's called Flight of Passage, a New England IPA coming in at 7% ABV, and this one is brewed in collaboration with Outer Range Brewing Company, who come from Fisco in Summit County out to the west of Denver in Colorado. A very, very pretty state, but a state that also has a hell of a reputation when it comes to craft beers actually. So yeah, really curious to see what this has in store for us. You know, Outer Range have a reputation for Belgians and IPAs from what I understand, and Dry and Bitter I've had some really good IPAs from in the past as well actually. But yeah, you know, Colorado, a very, very well respected American beer state. You know, back when I first started drinking beer, it was probably Oscar Blues was the first Colorado brewery I came across, with the Dale's Pale Ale and the Mama's Little Yellow Pills. And then when I moved over to Sweden a little bit later, in 2015 I encountered New Belgium. I've not seen anything from them in a while actually, but I think they were bought out if I remember rightly. But we do get Ska Brewing fairly regularly as well, and there's also Great Divide. We do get quite a few of their beers here in Sweden as well actually, which are quite nice. But yeah, a very well respected beer state. I will be going out there next year, COVID permitting, so you might well see a few out and about videos filmed in Colorado actually, along with my friend Tabor, who was on the channel last year when I was in the States. So yeah, definitely look forward to that. I was in Colorado when I was very young. I do remember it being very pretty, but other than that I don't remember too much about it. But you know, I'm older, not, well, wiser is debatable, but older and wiser these days, so we can go and try a few more of the Colorado craft beers, so I'm sure that will be quite fun. You'll maybe see those videos around sort of August or so of 2021, COVID permitting. We'll need to see. But yeah, definitely nice to introduce another Colorado brewery to you here on the channel. Always great to return to Dry and Bitter, of course, as well. This particular beer was released here in Sweden on the 15th September 2020 as part of the Tillfälligt assortment of that day. And Dry and Bitter, as I say, a brewery that I do review things from quite regularly actually. So let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Dry and Bitter Brewing Company, and the link to my future reviews that hopefully I could do from Outer Range Brewing Company. Hopefully I can pick up a few of their beers when I make it out to Colorado. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you, and another one for all the American beers. This beer will appear in both of those since it is dual nationality. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Dry and Bitter Brewery then, to the home brewery first, as we say. So Dry and Bitter Brewing Company, as I've told you before, were founded back in 2015 by the owners of Fermentoren, one of the beer bars. So this is Soren Parker Wagner and Jay Pollard, and this was basically as a collaboration of the Crooked Moon brewing brand that they had previously. So they were also involved in founding Ølkollektivet, which is a collective brewing space in Gørløse. They founded that along with the guys from Ulsnedkeren and Gamma Brewing Company, and it evolved basically out of the old Stronzo brewery building that, you know, that company went bust, so they bought the tanks and things like that and all the equipment from Stronzo when they went bust. But they brew their beers there still today along with Gamma and Ulsnedkeren. Bad Seed, Black Rooster and Ghost Brewing and a few others have also shared that facility as well before, you know, moving on to have their own places. But in addition to the Copenhagen Fermentoren bar, which I do recommend you check out, they've also got another bar in Aarhus as well, and both of these Fermentoren bars have special beers that are brewed only by Dry and Bitter, and you can only find them there actually as well. But today these guys are brewing in the region of about 250 or 300,000 litres from what I understand. They also host their own beer festival as well, which is called Fermentoren's Flying Circus, and as of September 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 110 different beers according to Untappd, and they are starting to work a little bit more with barrel aging and sour beers as well actually. Probably my favourite beer that I've had from Dry and Bitter was the one that they did for their 5th anniversary. I still have the can here, which was this one, Hey Femme. If you ever see this beer, I highly recommend that you have that. It's a beautiful New England triple IPA, and I still think that's one of the best Danish IPAs that I've ever had, so have a go at that one. But yeah, if you see any beers from Dry and Bitter, you will enjoy them. I've had very nice imperial stouts from these guys. They do seem to mainly focus on the New England IPAs, and whether it's West Coast or it's New England, you will get a good one out of them. I think the first beer I ever tried from these guys actually was called Hobo Chick, and that was a West Coast IPA, which was really nicely done. They do have one called Hop Sweat that I'd love to try as well, come to think of it, but I've never seen that for quite a long time actually. But yeah, Dry and Bitter, a very well respected Danish brewery these days, and doing some very, very interesting beers. So if you're interested in Danish craft beer, Dry and Bitter are definitely one of the ones that you want to check out, and I highly recommend that you do so. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Dry and Bitter Brewing Company. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's have a look at the American side of things then, on to the second part of my brewery notes then. So Outer Range Brewing Company, as I've told you already, are based in Fisco in Colorado, which is to the west of Denver, and that is Summit County from what I understand. But these guys opened up the brewery back in winter of 2016, and it was founded by Lee and Emily Cleghorn along with Ryan Chang. So Lee and Emily both served together in the army, and they met back in 2009, but Lee later met Ryan during his time at Fort Bragg, which I think was North Carolina, and this was when the pair were undergoing Special Forces training together. They're both Green Berets apparently. But Ryan is from California originally, so he was well acquainted with West Coast IPAs, and Lee had always been a craft beer drinker from what he says as well. But after having a daughter, Lee and Emily came out of the military, and they both went to attend Columbia University in New York, and during that time Lee took an internship at Other Half Brewing, and he also attended the American Brewers Guild in Vermont as well to train as a brewer. During this time Ryan was in Boston, and the three friends stayed in quite close contact during that time, and there was a lot of talk of them starting their own brewery because of the interest that they had in beer. But then Emily and Lee moved to Colorado in 2010, having frequented the Summit area many times before on holiday and things like that, and then Ryan soon joined them a little bit later on. So these guys, as I say, they kind of got the brewery up and running. They were home brewing a little bit from what I understand as well, but the main focus that these guys had when they started the brewery in 2016 was on brewing different IPAs and Belgian style beers. They've got a small bit of a pilot system in the brewery that is one barrel from what I understand. I think, is that maybe about 1,000 litres, something like that. But yeah, they've got a one barrel system in the brewery that they use to brew lots of different batches of beer, and if the beer is good and it's successful in the bar, then I think they kind of scale it up on their bigger system that they have. But Lee is the main man behind the brewing operations, and the brewery are very well regarded. They won a number of accolades in their first year, including the best new brewery in Colorado from what I understand, and as of September 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 320 different beers. So having only been around for, you know, about 4 years, I guess we can say, because I think it was the winter of 2016 that these guys opened up. You know, having only been operational for, I guess you can say about roughly about 4 years, you know, to have a return of 320 beers is pretty damn impressive actually. That's 80 different beers per year. So yeah, these guys very, very prolific, and that they say is their main focus. They want to brew the Belgian beers, they want to brew the IPAs, and constantly be doing different things actually. So yeah, seems like a very interesting brewery, very well decorated from what I understand too. So yeah, maybe this is one of the ones that I need to check out when I make it out to Colorado next year. They've got Pardon me, they do have a sort of brew pub facility as well, so you can go there. I think you can eat food as well. They did have a menu when I checked out the website, and it looks very nice. They say that they're at 9,000 feet in altitude, so what's that going to be? That'll be, you know, somewhere in the region of like, what, about 2,700 metres, something like that. So yeah, it's quite interesting that actually one of the higher, I don't know if they're one of the higher breweries in Colorado actually, but it's a very picturesque state, lots of mountains and things like that, and I am looking forward to going and seeing it again because I really don't remember it. I think I was about 4 when I was there originally. So yeah, really cool actually, and nice to introduce another Colorado brewery for you here on the channel. Hopefully we can go and check them out. An out and about video there would definitely go down quite well, I think. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Outer Range Brewing Company for the moment. Nice to introduce these guys to you on the channel. As I said, if you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. There isn't much on their history. I had to read a lot of the local newspapers and stuff to get all that information for you. But yeah, if you want to learn more about the different beers and things like that, you can check out the website for that. The restaurant, brew pub type thing, they've got all the opening times and their tap lists and things there as well. But yeah, if you want to learn more about what these guys are doing on a day-to-day basis, check out the Facebook and Instagram, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that's the end of the brewery history segment of the video. Let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork before we open up. As you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty damn cool, I have to say. You always get nice artwork actually from Dry and Bitter. It's always a little bit kind of trippy almost as well, to be honest with you. So yeah, really nicely done. You can see on the back there are the two brewery symbols. So there is Dry and Bitter from Copenhagen, and there is Outer Range from Fisco in Summit County, out to the west of Denver. And it says on the back here, the Flight of Passage New England IPA, overcome space and all we have left is here, overcome time and all we have left is now. Outer Range came from the snowy heights of Colorado to brew a hazy and fruity IPA with us, heavily hopped with a heady mix of Nelson Sauvin, Motueka and Citra. So yeah, some nice New Zealand hops in this. If you've watched the channel before, you will know that I'm a huge fan of my New Zealand hops. So Nelson Sauvin, we know those lovely kind of white, green, grapey flavours usually. It's got a hell of a spicy character to it as well. It's a beast, around 16% alpha acid. Motueka we know is quite limey, but sometimes it can be a wee touch orangey as well. I think that is usually around 8 or 9% alpha acid actually. A lot of the New Zealand hops are deceptively low in their alpha acid content, and Citra we know is the kind of, I guess can you say, the OG American high alpha acid hop. Lots of mangoes, lots of tropical fruit complexities as well, usually 13 to 14% alpha acid. So yeah, beautifully presented beer this one, and I think it's going to be a really nice hop selection in this one too. 440ml can. I paid 45, was it 45 or 50? I think it might have been 50 Swedish kroners for this one, which is roughly about $5 American for those of you watching over in the States. Maybe a bit more because the dollar has dropped a little bit, but yeah, about $5 US and about, yeah, maybe about €5 or something like that. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. The can is 440ml, so just a little bit shy of an American pint, which is 473. But yeah, let's get it out and into the glass. The Flight of Passage New England IPA, 7% ABV. I think this beer is going to be pretty nice actually. So yeah, that's about 2/3 of it in the glass. So let's have a look at it then. So yeah, as you can see and as you'd expect, this one is actually a very kind of rich yellow colour, this one. So you can see the beer is poured with about a half finger, maybe about 2/3 finger actually, of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That's going to fade away to be a very thin foamy layer quite quickly though, and it's definitely a nice kind of dark yellowy colour, this one. It looks like a kind of, the thing I always do with the New England IPAs is that I compare them to fruit juices, because they really do just look like that. So this one looks like it might be a kind of nice sort of mixed fruit juice actually, a mixed kind of tropical fruit juice. It doesn't look quite as bright as a mango juice or as pale as a pineapple juice, definitely looks more like a kind of mixed tropical fruit juice, this one. But yeah, you can see one or two little bits of sediment floating around in this one. I must have had the fridge a little bit cold actually, but yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head, but I think it's fairly safe to say this one is quite a rich dark yellowy tropical colour actually. I really like how this one looks. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer when you consider what style it is. If we put the light through it, you can see there is a bit of clarity, almost a little bit of clarity to the haze around the edge of it. It's not the soupiest and gloopiest of New England IPAs that you're going to come across, but it does look pretty damn nice, I have to say, and it's kind of what you would expect, to be honest with you. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one and see how we got on. Nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of appearance when you consider what style it is. So yeah, let's go for it, guys. That smells pretty nice. So straight away with this one, it actually comes across in the malt base as being very well balanced. You've got a nice bit of oaty creaminess coming out of this one. You do get a nice bit of the kind of white bready notes as well, but you can also smell some of the kind of bitey wheat. But in fairness, the wheat that comes out of this one is definitely a little smoother, a little bit more smooth, to be honest with you. So yeah, this beer, it definitely has a little bit of that kind of Werther's originally brown sugary sweetness that's coming into a lot of New England IPAs these days. And the first one one of the first ones that I really noticed it with was that Hey Femme that I showed you earlier, the can. There's a lot of the New England IPAs in Sweden these days have a bit of that Werther's original type brown sugary note to them. It seems to just be how the style is evolving actually. It's getting a little bit sweeter, whereas the older New England IPAs were kind of straight up oats and wheat and things like that, a little bit more crisp almost as well. But yeah, this one comes across very, very nicely. So like I say, lovely kind of smooth white bready quality underneath. You do get a little bit of that more white bready crispness to the beer. You've got a nice bit of an oaty creaminess, a good little bit of how do you say, a good little bit of a kind of wheaty bitiness there at the back of the nose as well, and some of that kind of Werther's original type brown sugary sweetness coming out of it. I think that covers the malt base in this one quite well actually. I can't remember if you get Werther's over in the States actually. I'm not sure if you do get that, but you do get a good little bit of that kind of just oil, like creamy brown sugary sort of thing coming out of this one in the middle of the nose. The malt base comes across very, very nicely, I have to say. Yeah, aroma to this beer I think is very, very nice, I have to say. On the hoppy side of things then, there's a wee tiny little bit of earthiness there, but this one is mainly quite floral. You do get a little touch of spiciness coming out of this one, but there's not a lot in terms of you know, a big kind of green floral character, if you like. It is there, but it's not as kind of bitter and spicy as you might expect from the big hops like this. I think this beer really leans more towards the kind of lighter grassy side of things, and to be honest, that suits the Motueka and the Nelson Sauvin quite well, because the fruits in those hops tend to be a little bit softer, to be honest with you. So yeah, overall on the green side of things, if you take the aroma in quite deeply, you can definitely get a bit of that kind of stronger floral character to it, but I think it leans more towards the kind of lighter grassy side of things actually, which I do quite like, to be honest with you. In terms of the in terms of the fruity side of the beer then, you do get a bit of the mango out of this one from the Citra, and you do get a bit of a slightly stronger tropical fruit as well. Sometimes Citra can give you a little bit of a kind of passion fruity, almost grapefruity note actually, and you do get a little bit of that out of this beer, I have to say that about it. But yeah, it's mainly the softer side of the Citra you're seeing, but there is just a little touch of that kind of more pungent side to it as well. But there's a hell of a lot of kind of lighter fruits in there as well. Straight away with this one, you're going to get that big sort of white, green, grapey note that you get from the Nelson Sauvin. It's a beautiful hop, that. Nelson Sauvin is a classic. If you like Nelson Sauvin, I recommend you check out beers that have Hallertau Blanc in it as well. And you slightly, I don't know how new it is actually, but a very nice high alpha acid hop from Germany. Enigma from Australia is also quite interesting, because it's got quite a few of the Nelson Sauvin characters, but it's got a little bit of a kind of red fruity cranberry type thing as well actually, so that's a hop to keep an eye out for, as Enigma. But yeah, you get those lovely kind of white, green, grapey notes out of this one, and you can smell a bit of the more oily, limey note from the Motueka as well. I do get a wee touch of an oily orange to this one as well, to be honest with you. So yeah, the aroma that comes out of this beer I think is very nice, and the more that you smell of this, I think the slightly sweeter it gets, but at the same time the fruits get a little bit more juicy, but at the same time a wee bit more kind of oily as well. So it's a lovely aroma that comes out of this beer, a very nice hop profile. Nelson Sauvin, Motueka from New Zealand, and then Citra from America actually. So it's got a lovely balance in the fruity side of things, and I'm suspecting, just from the way this one's coming across, I don't think this is going to be the most bitter of beers. We don't expect that from the New Englands, but probably these hops are being added later in the boil to give them more flavour and aroma rather than more bittering qualities. But yeah, quite a nice smelling beer, this one, so take a little bit of time to appreciate that aroma before you get stuck into it. But we're going to taste this one now. This one is the Flight of Passage, a New England IPA. It's 7% ABV, brewed at Dry and Bitter Brewing Company at Ölkollektivet in Görlöse in the northwestern part of Copenhagen, in collaboration with Outer Range Brewing Company, who are from Fisco in Summit County out to the west of Denver in Colorado over in the States. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål. Yeah. Oh man. You know, dry and bitter, these guys never disappoint. They never do. It's got a lovely juiciness to it, this beer. And I mean, it feels almost, it's kind of interesting, this one. I wonder if they've changed the water profile for this a little bit. Because this one, you know, I'm maybe being a bit stereotypical here, but as I said, Colorado, it's a mountain state, and obviously they're going to have very kind of clean feeling water. But I always remember the dry and bitter beers often just, they feel a little bit more oily than this. This one comes across as quite clean, so I do wonder if they've changed the water profile for this one a little bit to kind of maybe mimic what's going on at Outer Range. That's an interesting point to take away, because as I say, this one just feels a little bit different from the other dry and bitters that I've had before actually, and I'm quite sensitive to that as a Scot because we have very good water back home. So yeah, that's just the first thing that comes into my head with this one. But I'll say straight away, this is a lovely, big, juicy and fruity New England IPA. This one's really nice. Yeah. Yeah, this one, it gets a big thumbs up from me, this one, 100%. So yeah, where to start with this beer then? It's another awesome, it's another very, very good one actually. Straight away with this beer then, you can feel that nice kind of pale malty quality and the white bread. You know, it's that blankets the middle of your tongue, but it feels like quite light in that sense in the middle of the palate. If you go towards the back of the back third of your tongue, the final third of your tongue, you do get a few of the kind of wheaty, bitey notes kind of sitting there, but again, the beer feels very, very smooth in that sense. But yeah, the back third of your palate has a little bit of wheaty bitiness to it, but again, the wheat comes across as very, very smooth, which is quite interesting. It's only when you go to the very, very back of the tongue that you get one or two little bitey elements to the wheat, I have to say. But as you move further forward, the beer, you move into the middle third of your palate, and you start to get more of the oats and some more of the kind of sweetness there. But the thing is, it almost feels as if you've got a bit of the breadiness there, but the middle of your palate, the middle third of your tongue and the back third of your tongue, it almost feels very, very slick. Actually, it's a very slick and very clean feeling New England IPA, this one. So as I say, this one, the mouthfeel for me is quite different from the other dry and bitters I've had before, but I really like this. This is really nicely done, I have to say. It's not what I'm used to from dry and bitter, but I like that when you get beers that make you think a little bit, for sure. So yeah, you can feel it's quite slick across the middle of the palate there. You can feel a bit of the wheatiness from the back third of your palate just kind of spreading forward, but as I say, in the middle third, the thickness just kind of goes down a little bit, and as you reach the front half of that middle third of your tongue, you've got a nice little bit of oaty creaminess. Just behind that, You have a little bit of a kind of oily kind of brown sugary Werther's Original type thing, and that kind of sits there too. So yeah, I mean, the malt base in this one, to me, it comes across as quite simple, but it's really nice. You've got that kind of slickness just underpinning. Just to sum it up, you've got that slickness kind of underpinning the middle third and the back third. Your tongue, it's a kind of very smooth, almost woody kind of slickness that you have to it actually, which is kind of interesting. But then yeah, on the back third of the tongue you've got a bit of a thicker wheaty note and a wee bit of a bitey note to that as well. As you move into the middle third of your palate, you've got a nice bit of an oily, you do have a nice little bit of an oily kind of Werther's Originally brown sugary note, and then on the front half of that you've got the more oaty kind of creamy quality to this one, which is quite nice. But like I say, the malt base to me comes across as really quite slick in this beer. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate there is a teeny little bit of earthiness there, but as you move further forward along the side of the palate you do get more and more floral quality out of the beer. Yeah, you do get more and more floral qualities out of this one, which is great. Yeah, this beer by no means is it dank, it's just, I mean, you do get a little bit of a kind of bright floral aromaticity out of this one. It's not spicy or anything like that, it's just got that real kind of resonating aromaticity there, and it really comes out. You can feel it gradually building from the back corner of the palate. You've got that little bit of earthiness I was talking about as you move further along the side of the palate there. This one, it comes across, it does get more and more kind of, how do we say, it just gets a little bit brighter almost. You do get quite a nice bright floral aromaticity on the front corners of the palate, and as you go round the very front curve of the tongue, the beer is distinctly lighter and more grassy. Just checking that there's no sediment in the bottom of the can of this one. We did get it out. It just surprises me. The thing that really gets me about this beer is just kind of how slick it is. This one is a lot more slick and a lot it's a really drinkable beer, this one. It's almost dangerously drinkable for 7%, but the dry and bitter ones that I had before, this one, to be honest, this almost reminds me of the Hobo Chick that I had those years ago, which was the first beer I had, and that was a West Coast IPA. This one's almost got it's almost like a New England IPA that has a more West Coasty type mouthfeel to it, which is quite interesting. Very clean and a little bit more oily. But yeah, like I said, round the front curve of the palate, you've got a bit of that lighter kind of grassy note to the beer, and that the way that the green side of the hops in this beer comes across, it really fits in well with the fruity side of the beer. So let's focus on that now. That front third of your tongue, where the nice oily bubble comes out and you get the fruity juicy esters just rolling their way out of the beer. So at the back of that front third of the tongue, that's where you get the Citra kind of showing its head, if you like. You get a little bit of that kind of, you get a wee touch of the kind of darker grapefruity note there, but I think it is more of a passion fruit character, a little bit of a stronger passion fruit. But as you move further forward from that, you've got a wee bit of a mango-y quality coming out of the beer, and again that's the properties of the Citra show in their head. But yeah, as you move forward onto the front half, almost of that front third of your tongue, the front sixth of your tongue, if you like, you get a bit of an oil, you get a wee touch of an orangey quality for me, but it's more of a kind of oily, limey note. And then as you progress into the aftertaste, almost on the tip of your tongue, that's when you start to get the Nelson Sauvin coming out, those white, green, grapey notes. But in fairness, I think the Motueka and the Citra are the most obvious hops in this one. I think those are the two that really come out for me. I think on the fruity side of the beer it does have a wee touch of pungency to it, which is quite nice. So yeah, I have to say I do like how that side of the beer goes together. But yeah, really the further you go into the aftertaste, you've seen how long it was since I took a sip of the beer now, you'll get the Nelson Sauvin green grapey notes just behind that very front edge of the tongue there, and then you've got the limey notes, as I say, the slightly more oily limey notes sitting behind that, a wee tiny touch of orange in there. The Motueka really comes out more as lime in this one for me, and then further back behind that you've got the mangoes and that slight passion fruity note, like I was saying. But yeah, this is a really nice New England IPA. Is it the best one I've had from Dry and Bitter? You know, all of the, I think they're going to find it very, very hard to top Hey Femme, because that was such a good beer. But I really do like this one as well, and this is quite different compared to what they've done before. So this one is 100% worth trying. But is, you know, to answer the question, is this the best? I don't. As I say, I don't know how they're going to have to do something very special to top Hayfem for me. But this is a lovely, lovely beer. I will say that this is another very, very solid effort. The thing that sets this one apart for me, as I say, is the mouthfeel. So let's focus on that now. So as I said to you, this beer, it strikes me as kind of straight in the middle. It's mid-bodied in the middle of the mid-bodied part of the spectrum. The carbonation is very smooth in this one. It comes across as very slick and also slightly oily in its mouthfeel. It's almost like a New England flavour profile, but with a West Coast mouthfeel almost. I think that's a fair assessment of this beer. The IBUs in this one, I think, are fairly low. You know, I think that's about 25 IBUs. Could even be 20, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think about 25 IBUs roughly for this beer. The malt base, like I say, is quite slick, but it's got a nice bit of smoothness to it, and I think it does get a little touch sweeter the further that you go into the aftertaste. You get more of that Werther's Originally note coming out, but at the same time you get a bit of the oaty quality and a bit of the kind of wheaty note to the beer as well, which is quite nice. You've got a nice kind of juicy sweetness to the beer as well. It's quite a slick fruity character that comes out of this one actually. So I really like how this goes together, to be honest with you. I mean, that's what really sets this one apart from me, is the mouthfeel compared to the other dry and bitter beers. I don't have any point of reference for Outer Range, but I'm guessing. I'm making a guess, but I don't think it's a guess without any. I could call it an educated guess. I don't think it's a guess without any substance, but I think maybe they've changed the water profile on this one to kind of reflect the Colorado water a bit more, you know, that really kind of clean mountainous water. I think that's maybe what they've done with this one actually, because it feels different to the other dry and bitter beers, but it comes across very, very nicely. So if you like a kind of limey leaning New England IPA, then this one is going to be right up your street actually. I think this one, it's the lime that really stands out for me in this one, but the Nelson Sauvin is there in the aftertaste, and you do have a little bit of tropical fruit to it as well, but a very slick limey leaning New England IPA. That's probably a very good way to kind of sum this one up. So I think on that note we should end the review there. But yeah, this was a lovely beer, so thumbs up to both dry and bitter and Outer Range for this one. I do hope that I can try some more of the Outer Range beers when I get out to Colorado next year. It'd be cool to review more of those for you here on the channel for sure, and dry and bitter I'm sure you will see at some point again very, very soon. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Flight of Passage, a New England IPA at 7% ABV from Dry and Bitter Brewing Company in Gorløse in Copenhagen, and Outer Range from Fisco in Summit County to the west of Denver in Colorado. A really nice collaboration this. I think one of the first dry and bitter beers that I've seen over here in Sweden. They've not released too many over here, but a really nice one to get through Systembolaget, so I'm very, very happy. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Dry and Bitter and from Outer Range. We will return to both of these breweries at some point fairly soon, but thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, Scott, make sure you check out Dry and Bitter, and I'm looking forward to hopefully trying a few more beers from Outer Range Brewing soon. The Flight of Passage New England IPA, 7% ABV, very, very nicely done. Cheers.